Dude is ridiculous. If you haven't seen, there's a video that came out where Tyreek knew what he was doing, basically asking him his top 5 quarterbacks. I know most of you have probably seen this as this video comes out, but Tyreek Hill can't be on this team next year. Basically, it's top 5, and he left out Tua on purpose. Like, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was doing that on purpose. You can't have this dude on the team next year. This dude is, I mean, it's one of those things that you get to see a person in like a position of power and, you know, having wealth and all that, and it's like, this type of person is the reason why our kids are being led astray, because they think this is the type of person that you should be looking up to, when this dude is a complete child of a person. And yes, he's very wealthy, but the dude is not an adult, and he's going to reap what he sows. You know, he thinks he's a Christian. He's going to reap what he sows. Definitely will be a hardship for him, and I think all the money in the world is not going to save him from himself. But this dude can't be on the team next year. I think probably part of the reason why Mike McDaniel's pulled all sorts of ways is because he has to deal with this dude all the time. And he's constantly considering in his head if his offense is even going to run the same without Tyreek Hill. I think at this point, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter if our offense takes a step back. You can't have this dude. And I'm going to be 100% real with you. I don't think it will. I think the toxicity of this dude being just a complete child all the time is just completely destroying everyone's confidence, and everyone in that building is really thinking they have to do more than what they're necessarily needing to do. And I think just at this point, I've had enough of this dude. You know, me being a Christian, I see, you know, the way he treats his wife and his kids, and you know, the way that he acts on a day-to-day basis, and especially with that whole cop situation that we had a year ago, the way that this person acts, I don't even want to root for him. I don't even want him in the same jersey that I root for, because I'd feel like just like a despicable person, because this dude is garbage. I'm going to tell you right now, he's trash. He really is trash. And this is the reason why our kids are being led astray, is because they look up to people like this, who are complete morons. And, you know, because they're extremely athletic, which can't take anything away from him on that moment, extremely athletic, extremely fast, they look up to this type of person, when this dude, nobody should be looking up to. I think it's the biggest problem to see someone like this that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Again, like I said, they got to trade him. You know, you can't, if Tyreek Hill's still in this Miami Dolphins uniform towards this season, I mean, I think Mike McDaniel definitely, I don't care how much cap you have to eat. If Tyreek Hill is in a Dolphins uniform coming into this season, I think Mike McDaniel should immediately be fired. I think that's the way that it should be. I don't think he should have a job, because if you're going to decide to keep this dude around, when most likely this dude is the kind of like the center reason of why all these people don't want to be around here, and you still want to have him on your team, I think you don't deserve to be a head coach. So we'll get off of that. I think that's enough talking about that. Jalen Ramsey, it's a perfect example, really a perfect example, right, of professionalism versus a child, is Jalen Ramsey. Similar situation, doesn't want to be with the Dolphins anymore. But you don't hear a single thing coming from Jalen Ramsey. Not a thing. Nothing is coming out. Like, Jalen Ramsey is such a professional and such an adult that you don't hear anything coming from him. Like, almost mirrorly, the same exact thing. Both of them want to be off the Dolphins. One of them you have to hear about every single week. And Jalen Ramsey, you never hear from. You don't hear anything from him. And, of course, we know that the Mike McDaniel thing is not for him. We've totally understood that. But as an adult, as a real Christian man, you don't hear a peep. You know? He just quietly going to exit the Dolphins, and that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so right now we have a couple of people. I think honestly the way that he's doing this, I think honestly looking out for the best of Jalen Ramsey is probably best suited, you know, because the way that he's gone about it is such a professional, such a good, you know, professional football player that he needs to go to a contender. You can't trade him to a crap team, even though he doesn't have a no trade clause. I think at the end of the day, the way that he's gone about things, even when, I mean, again, I hate to compare him, but at the end of the season, when we look pretty much are out of it, you still see Jalen Ramsey making tackles and doing what he needs to do. Just the ultimate professional, the ultimate adult, and something that Tyreek Hill definitely should look up to as a person to see what it's like to be an actual man instead of a boy. But I think you got to trade him. Number one, the first spot that I can really think of, which is starting to come together as a real scenario, is the Rams. I think what we're pretty much going to do at the cornerback situation is probably sign a couple of the free agents. I think Asante Samuel Jr. Is definitely a high candidate just because he's younger, and I think if you can develop him, you can develop him. So we'll probably sign a free agent. Most likely, again, it's going to be maybe Cater Kohu on the boundary, Cam Smith in the slot, and maybe Asante Samuel or Rasul Douglas, whoever we decide to sign. And like I said, they could also trade for Greg Newsome with the third-round pick that we have. But I think Ramsey has to go to either the Buccaneers, the Rams, or honestly, I don't know, Detroit could be another one if they need another corner. Who else could we trade him to? But most likely you're getting a fourth-round pick for him, probably a fifth if they take on most of the cap. But again, I think the epitome of it is that you trade Jalen Ramsey to a contender because he deserves that. As a person, I don't care what happened between Mike McDaniel and him. As a person, as a man, he deserves to be put in the best possible situation just by the way that he's handled himself. The way that he's handled himself has just been such a professional breath of fresh air, even though he's not going to be on this team. Having to watch Tyreek Hill versus Jalen Ramsey, when, like I said, it's the same exact situation. They both want off the team. They both have disagreements with Mike McDaniel, and one of them is acting like a man while the other one's acting like a little kid. So like I said, I think at the end of the day, both of them are going to get traded. Unfortunately, Jalen Ramsey is going to get traded as well. But I think coming into this season, if only Jalen Ramsey is traded and Tyreek Hill is still on the team, I think you need to fire Mike McDaniel as a coach. I don't think you can even start the season with this dude as a coach if he's going to keep this dude around. I mean, you have a guy that right now, I know I'm getting back into this, but I mean, that's all you can really talk about with Jalen Ramsey. Trade will probably happen this week, but we'll see what happens. I'm not the happiest about it. I like Jalen Ramsey. I think he's an excellent player, excellent professional. You just spit in the face of your quarterback. Now it's like the guy that's throwing you the ball, you basically said that you don't even think he's top 5, which even if he's not top 5, doesn't matter. It's like going to your job and one of the investors of your job says, do you like this job? And they're going to invest money and you go, no, it sucks. You're going to get fired on the spot. Obviously, it's the same exact thing. You are at your job, you get paid a lot of money by this organization, and the person that's throwing you the ball, you basically say is a crap quarterback. You don't even list him. You don't even think to consider, maybe stop and be like, oh, no, Tua's good. I'm not going to put him on this list. No, you basically just, again, spit in his face and say, hey, these are all my quarterbacks. To the fifth one, obviously, like I said, even if you don't think that he's top 5, totally get it. But you are a Miami Dolphins player, so he is. If you are a Miami Dolphins player, if you're on another team, sure, he's not. But you are. If you are on the Lions, you say that Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback, and you say it as your first one. I don't care what it is. You're a Miami Dolphins player. Your first quarterback named is Tua. That's just simple as that. And, I don't know if it got cut off. I hope that it got cut off. Maybe he said something about, I don't know, Tua is, not going to be on this thing or whatever. But, I mean, I searched everywhere. I haven't really found anything. It just basically seems like a Snapchat where essentially he's saying that Tua is not even in his 5. The guy that throws him the ball is not even in his 5, which you can relatively consider that Baker and Tua are very similar players. So if you're going to put Baker and not your very own quarterback, this dude can't be on this freaking team. I mean, tell me what you guys think in the comments, but you can't have him. You can't. I don't care. Like I said, I think we all, like most 90% of Dolphin fans are, we think our offense is going to take a step back. Maybe. But you have to consider that Tua came into this league throwing to Devontae Parker and Mac Hollins, having Malik Washington, Jalen Waddle, probably going to be one of the undrafted free agents. Most likely it's going to be that 6'4" dude, Armstrong. Taj Washington is another one that's going to be there. There's some players. And again, you can definitely sign an Amari Cooper. You can definitely sign, who's the other one? Yeah, there's some receivers out there. I don't think it's going to take that much of a step back that you can't get rid of this, poison in the locker room, to completely start fresh, and have a whole new attitude. Like, the way that you can run this thing is that you go through Tua, and Tua's the dude that puts everybody together, because he does. Tua is the one that does it. It's just he gets hurt, and that's the biggest issue. But like I said, you cannot have this dude on the team. He has to be gone before the end of the or before the beginning of the season, because it's just ridiculous at this point. Like, he's spitting in your face and slapping you and smiling about it at this point. He's spitting in your face, in this whole organization's face, slapping you across the face and smiling and getting ready to do it again, over and over and over again. You just can't have that. Let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, this stuff it irks me, because, again, like I said, the younger generation is going to look up to this dude as this is what you're supposed to do, or this is what you're supposed to be, because he's in a position of power, because he has money, and it's leading people wrong. And especially when you want to sit there, and I know many of you guys don't like when I say, I'm a Christian, especially if you say you're a Christian and you want to act like this, you're leading people wrong, and that pisses me off. So, fins up, baby. Like I said, besides all this, I think we're in a good spot. Besides all of that, I think Jalen Ramsey is going to get traded for some. I think we're going to pick up a corner. We'll be fine. Tyreek Hill will be gone. And Devon Achane will take on more of the load. Jonnu Smith will take on more of the load, and so will Jalen Waddle. And I think we will honestly be fine. I think we will definitely be fine with all the weapons that we have. I don't think we're going to be a top 5 offense, but we'll be functionable enough with the offensive line that we'll be able to do stuff, Pisses me off, but praise glory to God. Love you all. Fins up, baby. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Peace.